Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Been a while since I made a video. First of all, I want to say thank you to everybody that has subscribed. I finally hit 1,000 subscribers, and that to me is the biggest thing ever, because if you guys all know, YouTube is so hard nowadays because there's just so much on there. And you know, I try my best to do what I can, and you know, TikTok and Instagram has really helped me out, so I really appreciate that. And you guys, as you guys seen in the description, today's project is going to be about this cover I made for my intake manifold to basically cover my fuel rail and just make it look a little bit nicer. So this thing is pretty much just gonna work for the OEM fuel rail, and I'm not sure if it's even gonna fit like something else, because I have the B16B, so basically the big B16. So it might still fit the B18, but I'm not 100% sure. Maybe I need to try this out on somebody's car. So basically the reason why I'm doing this is because this little air duct system that I have here and this little, you know, manifold cover is the two things that I get comments for the most, that where did I get them. And if you guys don't know, I made these things, so these things are custom made. So my thought today is basically try to make this one a little bit better. So we could pretty much say this was pretty much like my prototype, like the first one I ever made. So you know, it definitely has flaws, little things that I'm not happy with. Like, first of all, as you guys can see, this little air line that runs above here to the little fuel regulator, that I should have just, you know, made this a little bit higher and just tucked it underneath just to make it look a lot nicer. And that way I would not had to cut these little shapes out, you know, because I kind of did this just so it wouldn't hit the air manifold humps, as you guys can see here. So that was kind of the initial thought of those little U-shaped cuts there. And I'm thinking the reason why that happened was because I couldn't find the spacers to put in between this and my fuel rail. So this thing only has 3 mounting points. If you guys can see here, there's 1 and then 2 and 3. So that those 2 go to the top of the fuel rail. I actually removed the OEM screws. I removed those, and then I just got these screws, and I got the little fancy washers and then just put them on there. So I'm definitely gonna make it better. And I'm thinking this is probably the easiest one to make because it's just basically 3 bends, and it's pretty easy to tackle out because all I used was one of those cheap Harbor Freight little benders. I'll put a picture on here of one of those. As a matter of fact, I think I have one. This is actually the one I used to fabricate that and this. So I think these are like 30-40 bucks, and you can get them at Harbor Freight and, you know, create this little project on your own. Now that I have this one, it should make it a lot easier to replicate it and make it better, you know, basically see all my flaws and go around that and make it better. So the one thing you really need is basically a sheet of metal. And as you guys can see here, I got I believe it's 4x4, and it is 16 gauge sheet metal. So it's not too thick and not too thin. So I'm gonna get started by removing this thing and start making a new one. And just like that, guys, it's exposed. So as you guys can see, basically what this thing covers, you be the judge. Does it make it look better or does it not? As you guys can see, this thing's pretty easy to be made. So all in all, this project should be pretty easy because, like I said, I already have my shape. So I'm just gonna basically flip it over and trace it around on here and give it about 1/2 inch here. That way it gives it a little bit more of that height. So I'm definitely gonna have to go get some longer hardware because I don't think this is gonna work. I measure a little line here and a little line here with the same thickness of the thickest side. That way I kind of know where I'm going to cut my rough cut first. And now I'm going to draw a straight line, and then I'll start adding all the other measurements I need to add. So like I said, this project should be a lot easier because I already have, you know, my prototype. And all I'm gonna do is basically add an extra 1/2 inch on the top. So all I have to do is, you know, measure this and add, you know, about 1/2 inch onto here. So let's see. So I got about 4 inches on here now. So I'm gonna make it about 4.5 inches. 4.5 inches is basically where it's gonna be my first bend, as you guys can see here. All right, guys. So now that I have it here, I'm actually gonna have to cut into this big side because I gotta add this little flap. That way I could just cut it off and drill the hole. That way it works out, you know. So if you guys can see, all I'm gonna do is trace a little hole. So I'm just gonna mark it basically where the center is. Maybe I should put a shit up here, and then I'm just gonna flip this around and kind of center it to that hole, and I think this should work out pretty good. So now I know to drill here, and now I could draw my little shape around here, and it should look a lot cleaner than this, a little bit more centered. Alright, so if you guys can see, basically if I would lay this flat, it should lay here pretty much, and I should have my little flap, you know, straighten out. It should lay here. So now I want to measure this little curved piece out. It's gonna be a little tough, but what I'll do is I'll just basically measure each point and I'll just transfer it to that side. So I just finished tracing this one, so I'm gonna mark basically where my bend is. Doesn't have to be perfect, I guess. So now I'll use the ruler to measure this side again, just so it'd be the same length on the other side too. Alright guys, so basically as you guys can see, I got my shape ready to go. So if this thing would be laying flat, this is basically what it would look like. So basically all I gotta do is cut it all out and then give my 2 bends. So 1 and 2, and it's pretty much done. Well, actually 3 bends because I got the little flap where the screw bolts on. Alright guys, so basically I got 2 options of how to cut this thing. You know, you could do it with an angle grinder and just use the cutting disc, but in my opinion a jigsaw is the best way to do it. So I buy these metal blades, and I feel like I got a lot more control because it's not sparking or anything on me, and you also don't have that chance of this getting pinched and this cracking and hitting you in the face or something. As you guys seen, you know, with the jigsaw, is, you know, I can't really, you know, make sharp turns for sure. So what I did is I shaped it in here and I stopped there. So now that I cut the whole sheet, I could come in here and get this. And the same thing here, I kind of angled it, if you guys can see the curve, and then I'll just cut straight in here and then straight back in, and also this cut here, and you know, then I'll do the other cuts, and I'm pretty much done. So this should be pretty quick. So as you guys seen, I got all the final cuts done, and I drilled the hole for the 3rd little mounting point. So now I'm probably gonna measure these out and drill them out. What I'll do, I'll throw a piece of paper here, and then I'll poke both of the holes out. That way I have the exact measurement that I need, and then I come and just transfer it on here. So let me do that real quick, just to ensure those holes end up in the right location. And there it is. Let's transfer it onto the metal. Alright guys, so there, I got a little bit too anal about it, but I think, you know, I don't want to look back and regret it. So I kind of measured, you know, the distance from every corner, and then like I said, I popped the 2 little holes and I measured it dead on. So I got one here at the end of the line, and then there's the other one. So I'll drill them out now and we'll start bending. So as you guys can see, I actually went out and got me the bigger bender in Harbor Freight because it's real convenient. And like I said, this smaller one is the one I used to make that first one, and it did the job. You know, it just felt like in the middle, it kind of lost strength, so it kind of made it look in a way, it kind of made it look a little roundish, not just a perfect 90, but it definitely did the job. And I'm thinking this one should make it a lot easier because it's a heavier duty one. But we'll try it out. We'll bend this first one and see how it turns out. So I'm gonna start with my little flap first. I'm gonna push that one out, and then I'll do the rest of the bends, because if I do that one, then I won't be able to get to this one. Alright guys, so there it is. Just like that, we have pretty much a replica. If you guys can see, I kind of notched up right here on this side, so I got to do that, notch that little side out, because I'm pretty sure it hits the distributor, and then basically round out the edges, round out these edges so it looks clean. You know, that one's not too bad, but I'll probably give it a little bit of round edge, that way it looks nicer. So I do really see that the bend is so much sharper than this one, and like I said, it was because this little bender's not, you know, not the strongest. Alright guys, so just like that, this thing is ready for paint. So what I'm gonna do before I paint it is actually mount it on there and test fit it. That way I ensure it's ready to go before I waste some paint and then have to redo it or something. So let me throw it on there. So there it is, guys. I am having a little bit of contact with my map sensor. If you guys can see there, it's kind of touching it. So I'm gonna probably nick it a little bit. And then I feel like it's too tight here, so I gotta see what I can do about that. I probably could drill my holes a little bit bigger. That way I could have a little bit more play and push it that way a little bit. So that's probably what I'll do, just drill the holes a little bit bigger. Since the washers are gonna be up here, you won't even be able to tell. And then that way I could just slide it off a little bit. Cause it's barely touching, but you know, I still don't want it touching. But honestly, looking at it from this angle, I think if I drill the holes bigger, that will give me enough play to get it off the map sensor. So that should be pretty good. Worst case, I could just shave a little bit of this flat side here, like right here. I think it's looking good though. So I made the holes a lot bigger, and it's not such a big deal because I put the washer on there and it should cover it. So what do you guys think? Ready for paint? Because I sure damn think so. Let's paint it up and let it dry, and we'll mount it on and see how it turns out. Well guys, here it is, all dried up. It's time to install it. Through the camera it looks all spotty, I don't know why, because in real person it doesn't really show that much. I mean, you could kind of see it, but it's not that bad. The camera's just making it look worse, I guess. But it's time to install this thing. I had these little spacers that I would sit here to give me the height so I could bolt it down. And since I added an extra ½ an inch, I couldn't find any of these that were the size that I needed. So what I ended up doing is just getting like a little PVC pipe and just cut 2 of them myself at the height that I needed. Alright guys, so there we have it. Nice and complete. Looks fresh again. What do you guys think? Leave your opinion in the comments below. Would you rock this thing? But yeah guys, I really like this look because it just makes it look a lot cleaner. Well, there it is guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope I inspire you guys to get a little bit creative. You know, it's not always about breaking your pocket, you know, buying expensive things. Sometimes a little bit of creativity goes a long ways because it makes you stand out in your own unique way. And you know, it definitely catches the eye different because it's something different. You know, I'm just showing you guys a little bit of my creativity, and I hope it is inspiring you guys to, you know, get creative with your own project too, make it your own. And like I said, if you're not yet subscribed, consider subscribing because I definitely gotta have more projects on their way. But guys, I appreciate everybody watching. Until next time, peace.